Happy Friday, everybody! Professor Toybox here with a new episode of Toybox Tutorials. Frequently, when I post a Toybox video that uses a terrain theme or a sky or a vehicle that requires a power disc, viewers will ask me what they can do if they do not own that power disc. And I try to provide alternatives that they can use, but this has been happening more and more often, and I remembered that there is another option, the Toy Dispenser, and I realized that I had not done a tutorial on the Toy Dispenser yet. In fact, it is long overdue, and so that's what I want to cover today. And we're going to just place this right out here about like that. And as you can see, I've already dropped a couple of other toys to help us out, and we'll get to those shortly. Now, I'm sure most of the console players are familiar with power discs, and if you aren't, they are special hexagonal power discs like these. I've got some examples here that you can place on the Disney Infinity base, and they will unlock the toy that's pictured on the disc. So for example, if we come out here out of the editor and I put down the power disc for Cruella de Vil's car, that gives me that car, which I can then jump in and play with. And if I take the power disc off, the vehicle goes away. I can also put down a power disc for a sky, and it automatically changes the sky. For example, I put down the one for Tomorrowland, and so that changes the sky for that. And if I put down a terrain theme power disc, it'll ask me if I want to switch my entire world to that. I'll say yes. And you'll notice it changes the road and the terrain and the plant cluster that I had placed over here. So the terrain customization disc does that for me. And also, if I go into the editor, and you've seen this before on many of my videos, and you come into the Customize menu and you look at the styles, we have the Tomorrowland theme in the list. And that's all well and good. And let me, for right now, just kind of put this back the way things were. So we'll put this back to the default slot, car track, and this one back to the Fantasy Terrain 3. And we'll leave the sky the way it is, I guess. All right. Now that's all well and good. But again, what do you do if you don't own these power discs? Well, one option is to use the Toy Dispenser. And again, you find this toy in the Instant Fun drawer. It's the first toy when you open the editor that you have. And you place it. And let me just let you know right away. You'll notice there's no logic menu for this. So there's no properties, no trigger signals, there's no behaviors, nothing you can do with this from a logic standpoint. It's strictly an interactive toy. And the Toy Dispenser will create a bunch of capsules that will give you random toys. If you look at each side of this, you have a purple side with a little icon there for a vehicle. This will give you a vehicle-related toy, which may or may not be a vehicle, as you'll see in a minute. This one, the red side, gives you a combat-related toy. The blue side gives you an interactive toy. And the yellow side gives you a toy box construction toy. And if we come around to the purple side and I step on this button, you'll see that it dropped a capsule. But you don't know what's in the capsule until you break it. You'll notice there's a little question mark there. And to break the capsule, you can just hit it or shoot it or kick it or whatever you want to do. And I'm going to go ahead and select the little blaster here. And if I shoot that, it gives me a motorcycle, which I can then hop on and drive if I can get it over that button. And Again, most of the time, the purple capsules will give you a ground or flying vehicle that you've already purchased from the toy store or unlocked, which you can then play with in the toy box. And by the way, the red and blue buttons do the same thing. They give you toys that you already have. But the purple button is a little bit different though, because every once in a while it will give you a vehicle that is only available from a power disc. And in this clip you can see that it gave me the Electric Mayhem bus, which normally requires a power disc. But here I got it without the power disc. The purple button will also occasionally give you something other than a vehicle, such as a racetrack piece, or the monster truck wheels platform, or something along that line. Now the red side of the toy dispenser will give you a combat related toy, and most of the time this will be a random enemy. If I shoot this, you can see it gave me an enemy, which I can then kill, and I get some experience and some sparks. And again, most of the time what you're going to get is a random enemy, but every once in a while it will give you something else, like this turret, or this turret, or this turret, or a mine, or a slingshot or cannon that you can use, which you can then pick up with the magic wand or spark mode and move to somewhere else in the toy box. And then once it's placed, you can hop on it and use it. Now the blue side of the toy dispenser gives you an interactive toy, and most of the time this is going to be one of the cast members from one of the 1.0 or 2.0 playsets. And it probably gives 3.0 cast members too, but in the time that I played with this I didn't see one. Occasionally, you may also get a pinball bumper like this one, or one of the physics balls. And as you can see, if you keep breaking capsules, it starts to get pretty crowded. And the toy dispenser will just keep giving you toys until you run out of memory. But you can delete any toys that were created from capsules using the magic wand or the cursor in spark mode.
I'm in the mood for a heist, but not with those goopy symbiotes slithering around.
And let's just go ahead and use that magic wand right now. And get rid of that distraction. Alright, the fourth side of this toy is the yellow side, and this to me, as a toy box designer, is the most interesting side of this device. When you step on the yellow button, this is going to give you a yellow capsule that will give you one of three things. And you won't know what you get until you break the capsule, just like all the other capsules. But it's either going to be a sky dome that will automatically be applied, but it won't be just any sky dome. It will be a sky dome that normally requires a power disc. It will not be a sky from the Sky Changer. And that's really interesting to me because you can get skies like this one that you can normally only get through a power disc. Now the second thing this might give you is a terrain theme that will be automatically applied to all of your existing terrain. And I'm going to demo these here in a moment. The third thing it might give you is a builder, which is a special townsperson that builds a specific type of structure. And I covered builders back in episode 5. But let's just see what we get here. And this gave us a terrain theme. And you'll notice it automatically applied it to the terrain, and to the racetrack, and to that plant cluster. And it automatically changes all of those things. One thing to note, though, if we come into the editor, we select our block and we go into the styling menu, you will not find this style, which is the Moana, or not the Moana, the Mulan theme. you will not find this anywhere in this list. All right. The terrain theme that you get from the Toy Dispenser is only going to apply itself to everything that you already have currently in the toy box. So you will not be able to put down any new toys, any new terrain, any new racetrack, any new plant clusters with that style. It's not going to be there. All right, and so that's one of the limitations of using the Toy Dispenser to get terrain themes. And also, you cannot mix different Power Disc terrain themes, because just like this one, if I played with this and kept going and got another terrain theme, it will automatically apply that to everything that I have in my toy box. And so I can't do a mix of like the Mulan theme and the Tomorrowland theme. You're only going to be able to use one theme at a time, and it's going to apply it to everything in your toy box. All right, so that's important to know. Let's go ahead and just see what else we can get here, if we can get something a little different to demo. Now this one changed the sky. And again, this is a sky that's only available through the Power Discs. This one is Star-Lord's sky. And that's really interesting. You notice that it automatically applied it. So that's really good. So one thing you could do is I could actually save my toy box at this point. And when you save your toy box after obtaining a terrain theme like this or a sky that you want, it will keep it. So when you reload your toy box, the terrain theme and the sky will still be there. And by the way, it will also save all of the other toys that were created from capsules, like the vehicle, any enemies or weapons, any townspeople or physics balls or whatever. All of that will get saved, with one exception. The vehicles from the Power Discs will not be saved with your toys. Okay? The Power Disc vehicle will disappear when you reload your toy box. So you can only use it during that session. So if this does happen to give you one of those Power Disc vehicles, use it while you can, because you're not going to be able to keep it. But everything else that comes out of that Toy Dispenser, you can keep. And so if it gives you a sky like this and you really like it, save your toy box, maybe name your toy box with that sky, and then whenever you want to build a toy box that uses this sky, you can reload it and start building from there. And so that's really helpful. Now with the terrain theme, of course, that doesn't really work because it automatically applies it to everything that you have. And so if there's a particular terrain theme that you want to use that you don't have a Power Disc for, what I would recommend doing is build your toy box completely. Put in all the terrain, all the plant clusters, everything you might possibly want, the roads, and so on. Save your toy box. Just use a default terrain theme. And then put down a Toy Dispenser and play around with this until you get the theme that you want. And then once you do, and it applies that theme to everything that you've built, then you can save your toy box. And if you want to mix terrain themes, at that point you can go in and restyle something that has already been applied. So like, for example, if I decided, I like the ground theme, but I don't really like the road theme, you can come in and change this to something else and put that in after the fact. And so that's the way I'd recommend using that. And we get another terrain theme. You can see it automatically applies it to everything, so it just undid the change that I did to the road. So that's why I recommend build all your terrain, everything in your toy box first, and then try to find the theme that you want. Trying to get a builder just so I can kind of demo that. Getting a lot of terrain themes though. Terrain theme after terrain theme. As you can see, you could just get a new capsule. I don't want that. Get a new capsule. Shoot that one and see what happens. Now this time we get a sky. We get the Agrabah sky. That's pretty handy. And it's not going to give me a builder. Oh, there we go. All right, so if we just kind of let him roam around while I'm talking, maybe he'll actually do something. But I've kind of already demoed these in episode 5, so I don't know that I necessarily need to do that. He's not doing a whole lot right now. But with the builder, these guys, as I had mentioned back in that episode 5, they'll just wander around the toy box and build random things. They may change things that you've already built. They may add to it, but they will keep building and keep changing things and will never stop until you delete the builder or run out of memory. So most of the time you probably don't want to keep these around. And so you can just delete him with the magic wand, or if you want to have a little fun, you can drop kick him or throw him off the edge of the world. And he'll just parachute to the bottom of the toy box, and when he reaches it, he'll be deleted. So you can get rid of him that way. Okay, let me just review my notes here for a moment, just to make sure I didn't miss anything. Now the last thing I think I want to show is that if you delete the toy dispenser, you'll notice it keeps all of the things that you created with it. So my vehicle's still here, the sky, the terrain themes, all of that. So you don't have to keep the toy dispenser in your world. And that's important to know. But I think that's it for the toy dispenser. It can be useful despite its limitations, but life is much easier if you can find and acquire the power discs. Because if you like to build in the toy box, or you plan to recreate my toy boxes, or toy boxes made by other creators, then I highly recommend getting the terrain theme power discs if you can, because as I showed earlier, you will actually get the terrain theme in the list of styles on the terrain, which means you can keep building once you put that power disc down, and you can mix and match styles. You can't do that with the toy dispenser. The sky discs are also very handy, especially if you want to change the skies dynamically. If you're only looking for one sky and you're never going to change it, the toy dispenser works fine. But if you want to use the sky changer to do a day-night cycle or change the sky depending on where you go in the toy box, you really need the power discs for that. But if this tutorial was helpful for you, please hit the like button and leave a comment to let me know. And if you have not subscribed to my channel yet, and you like my tutorials or my toy box builds, then just click my photo in the lower right corner of this video before you go. That's all for me today. Have a great weekend.